Okay guys, we are looking at adding and subtracting fractions this week. So we're going to start nice and easy. So if I have 3 8s plus 2 8s, I'm thinking of it like I've got a pizza that's cut up into 8 slices, and you have eaten 3 of those slices and your friend has eaten 2 of those slices. So altogether you guys have eaten 5 pieces of those 8 that you had. So you've eaten 5/8 of the pizza. So as you can see, this bottom number has stayed the same. We're just worried about seeing how many of the bits we ate. There is still 8 slices of pizza. So what about if the denominators are different? What we have here is 2/5 plus 1/4. So we need to make them the same, just like they were over here. They were both the same on the bottom. We need to do that over here. So we need to find a common denominator. So if you remember from a couple of weeks ago, we looked at multiples. So I need a multiple of 5 and 4, a number that is in the 5 and 4 times table. And the easiest thing to do is to actually just times them together. So 5 times 4 gives me 20. So I'm going to make 2 new fractions that have 20 as a denominator. So then we need to find out what happens. So this first fraction, how did we get down from 5 to 20? Well, it got times by 4. 5 times 4 gives me 20. And then remember, whatever you do to one of the numbers, you must do to the other one. So that means we need to do 2 times 4, and that gives us 8. Then we need to look at the other side and do the same thing, see what happens. So this side's been times by 5. So we again do the same thing with the top number. So 1 times 5 gives me 5. And then we can just add up. So like we did on the other one, we're only concerned about the top numbers. So 8 plus 5 gives me 13 out of 20. This denominator stays the same. And then the same thing happens if we're subtracting fractions. So if I've got 8/9, take away 2/5. We need to find a common denominator. So we're going to do 9 times 5, and that gives us 45. Check what this side's been times by. 9 times 5 gives me 45. So I'm going to do 8 times 5 to get 40. And then see what happened to this side. This side's been times by 9. So we're doing 2 times 9, which is 18. Some of you may have noticed that what happens is this side always gets times by the number that's on the bottom over here. And then this side always gets times by the number that's on the bottom over here. So we use the opposite numbers to times by. And then instead of adding the numbers like we did, the only difference we're going to do is take them away this time. So I end up with 22 out of 45. Then we can move on to do this with mixed numbers as well. And there's 2 different ways I'm going to show you to do this, and then you can pick which one you prefer. So method number 1, I have 3 and 2/7 plus 2 and 4/6. So the first thing we're going to do is convert these into improper fractions, which we looked at last week. So just a reminder, we do the denominator times the whole number, and then add the numerator on. So we're going to do 7 times 3, which is 21, plus the 2 is 23. And then here we got this 16 by doing 6 times 2, which is 12. Add on the 4 gives us 16. And the bottom numbers stay as they were. Now we just follow the same steps from the previous slide. We need to find the common denominator so that we can compare these. So 7 times 6 gives us 42. So 42 is now our new bottom number. See how we got from here? We've times by 6. So 23 times 6 gives me 138. And then this side has been times by 7. So I'm doing 16 times 7 to give me 112. And then again, we just want to add up the top numbers. So that gives me 250. So I've ended up with a really large number here. So the last thing I have to do is put this back as a mixed number. Again, if you remember from last week, that means we're dividing. So we need to see how many 42s we can fit into 250. Well, that's 5. 5 times 42 is 210. So that means that there's 40 pieces left over. method number 2, we're going to look at the same question. So we can just add up the whole numbers to start with. So this 3 that we have here and this 2 here, if we just add them, that gives us 5. Now again, we find a common denominator, which is still going to be 42, because 7 times 6 is 42. Then we're going to see what happened. Well, we know we've got to times this side by 6, but this time you've got a much easier number. We've just got 2 on the top here. So 2 times 6 gives us 12. And then again, this side, remember, was times by 7. So 4 times 7 gives me 28. And then I'm just adding up the numerators to give me a final answer of 40 over 42. And then the final step is we need to put all these things back together. So this whole numbers that we added up here, we ended up with 5. The fraction is 40 over 42. So the final answer is all of that put back together. And then you would just do the same thing again with subtracting. You follow all the steps through, but instead of adding, when you get to this step, you just take them away. Okay, so your tasks, as always, Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. So at Key Stage 3, your guide only has a couple of questions on adding and subtracting fractions. So it's best to have a go at the links. And that's the same for Key Stage 4, actually. You haven't got very many questions. As you can see, you've just got 3 questions on one page. So have a go at the links. So if you're struggling, have a look at these adding and subtracting first, because they are with the same denominator. And then you can move on to adding and subtracting with different denominators and with mixed numbers. And as always, there is some exam style questions at the bottom.